It is time for Inside the Game, and Steve is with us. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Good morning, Pat, Dave, and Ron. And I know Dave wants to hear me talk about Michigan basketball for the next 10 minutes, so
Yeah.
I'll try to make it as painless as possible. But Michigan had its victory parade and its Chrysler Center celebration honoring the 2026 National Basketball Champions. The first time since 1989 they have won a championship. So there was a lot of celebration going on across over the weekend and throughout the entire week, as the Indianapolis Final Four is only a 4-hour drive away from Detroit. And yours truly was there for both Saturday and Monday's games.
How exciting.
And full disclosure, I was pulling for Michigan. Look, when it's Big Ten versus anybody, I'm pulling Big Ten. So that's where I'm at.
Steve, were you surprised that UConn gave them such a run for their money?
Well, I tell you, Michigan has found a number of ways to win, and it seemed like UConn used all of them or stopped all of those different ways to win. And, yes, you know, I have learned in Michigan's last 4 championships, winning is not easy. The last 4 championship games they've been involved in, 2 in football, 2 in basketball, they've all come down to the final couple of minutes with the other team possibly gaining enough momentum to seize victory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, the last Michigan basketball championship was in '89. It went into overtime. The Michigan championship in '97 came down to Washington State, marching down the field before running out of time. And then, of course, in 2024, Michigan started out early against the Washington Huskies, but then the Huskies started making a slow comeback, to which Michigan finally, put the stamp on its championship in the fourth quarter. So it's not for the faint of heart for Michigan fans to go into championship games. So here's a statistic that most people didn't even know going in. Okay. That in the Final Four for basketball, Michigan had won its last 7 games on Saturday, but they were 1-6 on Monday.
Oh my.
So it's like Michigan fans are used to seeing the win on Saturday. The tougher game was supposed to be Saturday.
Right.
And they won in a huge rout and blowout. And then Monday's game was so tight, intense, I may never watch that game again.
I know.
I think what I'm going to do, because that game was, kind of ugly in a lot of ways.
It was,
is just watch the Arizona game over and over again.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
And then add the championship trophy presentation immediately afterwards.
I like that,
Skip
Steve.
the whole UConn game in itself.
Good strategy.
Yeah. It was. I was real shocked by that game because after watching them on Saturday, I thought, UConn will be a cakewalk for them. Oh my, yeah.
No, but see, Danny Hurley and his UConn team have won championships in 23 and 24, and they just took Michigan in all its different ways of winning out of that element. Where they took away their fast break points, they only had 2 in the game. They took away, Adai Mara's deft hands, in the post. They, held Michigan to, 0 for 11, I think, on their first 11 3-point attempts. Michigan only making 2 3-point attempts in the whole game. But what Michigan did was they found a way to beat them by playing UConn's game, and that's just what's going to be remembered about this team. It didn't seem to matter what kitchen sink was thrown at this Michigan basketball team. They found a way to win. So that was the big deal. And now next year, the Final Four is going to be in Detroit. And having gone to my first Final Four in Indianapolis, it was an incredible sight to see the cavalcade of basketball fans all, ensuing and just taking over a city and watching them all try to get along. It was quite something and fascinating. And playing it in a football stadium, you could have good seats down low, but you could still be very, very far away. And you could have really high seats up in the nosebleeds and look over the top like an eagle's nest watching the game, too. So it's going to be in Detroit this year. And, of course, there will be a lot of in-depth storylines about Michigan trying to repeat.
Right.
Michigan State under Tom Izzo to get there in Detroit locally to make a kind of local Final Four flavor. And, of course, Ohio State isn't too far away either, and they had a promising end of the season under J.T. Blow.
Michigan, I mean, Ohio State may not be far away geographically, but from the Final Four, it's a long way away. Let's just put it that. Maybe not from the NIT, but NCAA, I don't know.
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that kindness. How about the Masters, Steve? What I just want to say real quickly, ask you, just the feeling of being there in person for that game.
It was incredible. It was a bucket list moment for me. I took my son there on Monday night. He's a mechanical engineering student at Purdue. He actually found time in his studies to be able to hang out with me, dear old dad, in Indianapolis, and we were able to celebrate a championship together. So
nice.
That's just
cool.
one I'm just going to take to the grave on that.
Mm-hmm.
And the overall feeling of just pregame, in-game, and post-game, it's really, really tough to beat. We could talk about that at another time. I know Pat wants to talk about the Masters, though.
Yeah.
And Rory McIlroy winning back-to-back, only the fourth player to ever do that, to win back-to-back Masters. And it was an exciting final round from the very beginning until the end, as the lead changes that were taking place amongst the number of golfers. If you had a 2-shot lead on one hole, a few holes later, you were down 2 shots and vice versa. But when it came down to the end, Rory was able to find his stroke, even though he put himself into quite a bit of trouble on Saturday and Sunday to get that back-to-back. And what I find interesting, guys, is that, we're a very patriotic country. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're very patriotic. Yet Americans have really embraced the Irishman in Rory McIlroy. And perhaps there's being able to embrace, the difficulties and reflecting on how he's persevered and finally made it to become a champion at such a late age. Or maybe the fact that he backed the PGA Tour when so many PGA Tour members were switching to LIV golf and going with LIV. And I think there was a lot of people rooting for Tiger Woods. He may be one of America's favorite golfers right now.
Yeah. And
one of the things
I always root for him because he's a nice guy. He's playing a gentleman's game as a gentleman. You don't see that often enough.
And I'd love to have a conversation sometime about how LIV Golf has impacted this, because there was some conversation that some of the golfers at LIV Golf did not play well in the Masters. And so there's a lot of talk about why that is. So.
Taking us inside the game, Steve Clarke, thank you much. Have a blessed day, sir.
Bye,
Talk
Steve.
to you next Monday.